Fallout 3, like most Bethesda games, is one of those titles you can sink 1,000 hours into and still find something new. Every playthrough reveals another hidden terminal, another random encounter, and another copy-pasted room full of feral ghouls. But even after exploring every corner of the map and clearing every place of interest, some questions just don't have answers. No matter how deep you dig, the truth isn't there, because Bethesda never put it in the game. And since the recent Fallout Day stream basically confirmed we're not getting a remaster anytime soon, and Fallout 5 will probably drop sometime after Season 5 of the show, we might as well keep beating this 17-year-old irradiated dead horse that is Fallout 3. Yeah, you probably feel as old as I look. So today, we're diving back into the Capital Wasteland to break down the biggest unsolved mysteries of Fallout 3, Lion's Expedition. For some context, the Brotherhood expedition to the Capital Wasteland had two goals. First, to scour the US, especially the capital region, for pre-war tech. Second, to re-establish contact with another Brotherhood chapter that had gone dark decades earlier, after their airships crashed over Chicago. It's heavily implied that this little-known Chicago chapter was the Midwestern Brotherhood of Steel, the one seen in Fallout Tactics. That game takes place between Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, almost a century before Fallout 3. And yeah, that's a whole can of worms. Tactics was made by Interplay, the company that owned Fallout before Bethesda, and it's technically non-canon now, which is a good thing because Tactics had so many lore contradictions. It makes Kid in the Fridge seem perfectly reasonable. It was a wild game where the Brotherhood built a 1,000-mile-wide empire spanning from the Great Lakes to the Rockies. Also, they recruited super mutants and sentient mammalian deathclaws. Again, a can of worms we aren't getting into right now. Since then, only some of it, through offhand remarks across games or as snippets in game guides, have been quietly accepted as canon. All that said, how did the East Coast expedition Lions was part of completely miss them? Even if they never made it to the Rockies, the Midwestern Brotherhood was in the region. And this is the Brotherhood we're talking about. They know how to use radios. The fact they failed to re-establish contact, shrugged, and just kept going east raises some real questions. There are a few possibilities. Option 1. When the Lions expedition reached Chicago, around 50 years after the original airships vanished, the Midwestern Brotherhood may have already been destroyed or fractured. If their empire had collapsed, their remnants might have been scattered or hiding. And Chicago's huge, if you don't know exactly where to look. It's easy to miss what's left. Option 2, which could have caused option 1. Alright, tinfoil hat time. The Enclave got there first. The Brotherhood expedition Lions was a part of started in the 2050s, while the Enclave left to the East Coast in the 2040s. So it's possible that the Enclave, armed with their vertibirds and advanced power armor, carved straight through the Midwest. They could have run into the Midwestern Brotherhood, wiped them out or scattered them, scavenged what was left, and kept moving east. The only shred of evidence for this, and I'm using that term generously, is that the Enclave Mark II Black Devil power armor looks suspiciously similar to the unique suits the Midwestern Brotherhood used. Coincidence? I'm 100% sure there's a 50% possibility, but as of right now, we have no idea. Maybe if Chicago is the setting of the next game, Fallout 5 will finally tell us, when it releases in 2036. Though, speaking of Elder Lions, while he failed to find an entire Brotherhood chapter, he did succeed in finding something in the pit. The pit. Fallout 3 has plenty of mysteries, but this one is, let's say, on the nose. Metaphorically, anyway. It's the rare case where the game outright tells you, this thing exists, but you don't know what it is. And that thing is whatever Owen Lyons, Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 3, found in the pit. So, context. Back when Lyons was still a paladin on the Brotherhood of Steel expedition to the Capital Wasteland, he discovered the pit, the remains of Pittsburgh. Not just nuked, but constantly polluted by the 3 rivers running into it. The only life inside the city were raiders, trogs, and other mutants. Lyons led a team of paladins and knights and scourged the whole area, killing everything that fought back. Along the way, he took a lot with him. A massive haul of pre-war tech, 18 children not yet badly mutated by the environment, and finally, something. All we know is it's something important. Lyons found it in the pit. Almost no one knows the details besides him, and he brought it back to the Capital Wasteland. As for what it is, it's anyone's guess. That said, we can narrow it a bit. It had to be small enough to move hundreds of miles before the Brotherhood had vertibirds. Given the Brotherhood's obsession with seizing military tech, it was also likely dangerous. Finally, despite said danger, Lyons obviously saw it as valuable enough to keep, not destroy. While we don't know what it is, this kind of potential pocket doomsday device fits very well into the Fallout universe, as there are many such items like it. There's Euclid's Sea Finder, a gun in New Vegas, which, if you link it to the proper Poseidon satellite, calls down a laser and erases everything in a dozen square feet. There are Garden of Eden creation kits, or GECKs, that are the size of a suitcase but can rework all surrounding matter at the molecular level, turning even a desert into, well, a literal garden, or hell, depending on how irradiated or damaged it is. And then there are Assaultron heads, each capable of shooting a laser beam strong enough to cut through T-60 power armor like it's made of toilet paper and just delete 2 hours of progress and ruin my day, goddammit. Anyway, whatever Lyons grabbed, we don't know. Maybe the show will tell us. Until then, it's the best kind of mystery. The game confirms it exists, then refuses to explain why it should terrify you. Go ahead and tell us in the comments what you think it could be, but I'm sure the Brotherhood is overreacting. When has the American government in the Fallout universe ever done anything unethical? Oh wait. How the US government knew about ghoulification before the war. One of Fallout's biggest mysteries is how the pre-war US government not only knew about ghouls, but seemingly perfected, or at least understood, ghoulification well enough to trigger it in controlled environments. Across the series, the wider public believes ghouls are exclusively something post-war. The idea is simple. When the bombs fell, radiation and maybe trace exposure to the forced evolutionary virus drifting through the jet stream after West Tech was bombed mutated unlucky survivors into ghouls. That's what everyone thinks anyway. But Fallout 3's Point Lookout DLC definitively proves otherwise. There we meet Desmond Lockhart, a man turned into a ghoul before the Great War, deliberately, to survive long enough to keep fighting the Great Game. Which means not only did certain groups know about ghouls ahead of time, they also knew how to create them. So how could they have known? Based on the lore across the games, here's two potential theories. Theory 1. Early nuclear wars created the first ghouls. In the 2050s, Tel Aviv was destroyed by a terrorist nuclear bomb, and soon after the limited nuclear exchange between Europe and the Middle East during the resource wars might have produced the earliest ghouls. Powerful organizations, especially the US government, could have discovered and then buried this information, quietly studying radiation's effects and refining the process over the next 2 decades. If that's true, radiation alone can cause ghoulification, since FEV hadn't even been invented yet. Theory 2. Government FEV experiments discovered ghoulification. This one is more straightforward. Between March 2075, when FEV was first developed, and the Great War in October 2077, the US government discovered ghoulification during experimentation. Fallout 1 already established the US government's experiments on unwilling humans was the reason Captain Maxon's military unit defected and founded the Brotherhood of Steel, so it's entirely possible that in those 2 years, with thousands of test subjects and no ethics, researchers discovered, and later refined, the process. Maybe not perfectly, but enough that Desmond was willing to take the risk for a treatment that would keep him alive and ahead of his rivals in the Great Game. Now, with the Fallout TV show exploring Cooper Howard's investigation into the dirty secrets of Vault-Tec and by extension the US government, we might finally learn how deep this conspiracy goes. Or we don't. All this said, while Desmond might have known some of the risks of turning into a ghoul, I bet he didn't know about the risk of going feral. And frankly, even over 200 years later, neither do we. Feralization. Ghouls have been part of Fallout since the very first game, but the concept of them going feral, actually losing their minds, didn't exist until Fallout 3. Sure, in Fallout 1, most ghouls in Necropolis hated humans, and even threatened to eat them. In Fallout 2, you could get random encounters where you're attacked by shambling ghouls mumbling about being hungry, but in both cases, it wasn't a biological change. It was a conscious choice. In Fallout 1, ghouls were treated like monsters by humans, so some just leaned into it. In Fallout 2, those encounters were just nods to zombie movies in a game already packed with pop culture references. It's Fallout 3 that changed everything. That's where the idea of going feral appears, where a ghoul doesn't just act less human, but stops being human altogether. At some point, they simply lose all reasoning and become a rabid creature driven only by instinct, to attack and to feed. And while Fallout 3 introduces the concept of going feral, it doesn't explain why it happens, and the process of going feral varies dramatically. Some ghouls slowly lose their minds after decades or centuries. Others hit the 200-year mark and are mentally exactly like they were before the bombs fell. And in some cases, the change happens instantly, where someone becomes a ghoul and goes feral at the same time. Now it's possible, with the emphasis on that serum in the Fallout TV show, a chemical that delays going feral that we'll learn more soon. But for now, here's one theory based on my high school level understanding of biology. Don't ask what grade I got in that class. Ghouls are biologically immortal, which means their cells keep dividing indefinitely, which is how they can survive and even heal after centuries. And enough radiation rapidly speeds up the process, with glowing ones resurrecting dead ghouls with a single blast. But that ability might also be their curse. Their healing isn't perfect. Ghoul skin is misshapen, necrotic, and uneven. Their cells divide like a tumor, rapid but flawed. So what if that same imperfect cell division happens in the brain? The brain is just a bunch of neural pathways firing signals. If those brain cells start regenerating wrong, those pathways are broken as the cells just start overriding them. The brain slowly becomes a lump of useless flesh. Over time, memories fade, reasoning collapses, and the ghoul's higher brain functions quite literally die off, leaving only the primitive part scientists call the lizard brain, the one that handles instinct, hunger, and survival. And for that reason, I personally believe the serum in the Fallout show might not be something invented recently, but some kind of pre-war dementia or Alzheimer's drug that's been repurposed for ghouls. But that's just a theory, a game theory. MatPat, please don't sue us. Anyway, all this talk about people slowly losing their minds has been depressing. Let's switch to a lighter, more topical topic. Immigration. Tenpenny immigration. A lot of characters throughout the Fallout series have foreign accents. There's Aradesh from Fallout 1, Moriarty from Fallout 3, Melissa Lewis in New Vegas, and Kate and the Bobrov brothers from Fallout 4, just to name a few. Usually, this doesn't make a lot of sense. These people have been in America for generations, even centuries by the later game, so the accents should have long since faded. It's either a voice actor mistake, or much more commonly a simple suspension of disbelief to add flavor and variety when exploring the games. Which, fair enough, Fallout's theme is America, and hearing a few different accents is part of the American experience. But in the case of Alistair Tenpenny, it's not just window dressing, we actually know he's from the British Isles. The loading screen tip literally tells us, and I quote verbatim, "Tenpenny Tower is the brainchild of Alistair Tenpenny, a British refugee who came to the capital wasteland seeking his fortune." Take a second and let that sink in. A British refugee came to the capital wasteland seeking his fortune. You know, the place where the water glows in the dark and the lucky ones die of radiation poisoning before they are taken by slavers or super mutants. So now, dear viewer, I have to ask, what was he fleeing from? How bad does the United Kingdom have to be for this man to look at the capital freaking wasteland and go, yeah, this is the better option? Feel free to speculate, because this is one mystery that's probably never getting an answer. Tenpenny was already the age of the average American politician back in 2277, and by 2297, when the show takes place, odds are he's long since gone. All we know for sure is even in the chaos of Fallout's world, one truth remains universal. No matter how bad America's doing, the UK somehow manages to do worse. Glad to see nothing's changed. And also, you know the saying, the beauty of their women and the taste of their food made the English the greatest explorers on Earth. And speaking of British food, let's talk about another horror beyond human comprehension, of Ugg Qualtoth. In Fallout 3's Point Lookout DLC, we learn about the seemingly eldritch god, Ugg Qualtoth. Now, the whole thing around Ugg Qualtoth is a very, very clear nod to the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Ugg Qualtoth and the company that worshipped him, the Dunwich Borers, are an obvious reference to the eldritch god Yog Sothoth from the Dunwich Horror. And in the Dunwich building, a ghoulified chimey even shouts about Abdul and Al-Hazred, a direct callback to Abdul al-Hazred, the so-called Mad Arab, who wrote the Necronomicon in another Lovecraft story. Now, we could stop there. Ooh, spooky unknowable god is a Lovecraft reference. But it actually goes deeper, because this Ugg Qualtoth, this Cthulhu-like being, might just have been baked into the lore of the ghouls of Fallout. You see, ghouls are inexplicably drawn to places where Ugg Qualtoth's influence is strongest, like the Dunwich building in Fallout 3 and the Dunwich Borers quarry in Fallout 4. Through his audio logs, we learn that Jaime, a post-war survivor searching for his father, not only goes insane as he goes deeper, but actually turns into a ghoul, which we have to fight later on. And if you choose to destroy the Krivbekni, basically the Necronomicon, by pressing it to the obelisk beneath the Dunwich building, you suddenly get hit with a massive dose of radiation from nowhere. There's no radioactive waste in the building, there isn't any reason that this building should be irradiated any more than the surrounding area, and you certainly shouldn't get blasted by radiation by placing a book against a stone. The implications here are wild. Could there be a supernatural element behind ghoulification? Ugg Qualtoth only appeared starting with Fallout 3, so this influence wasn't part of the original canon. Then again, it's also possible it's just one way to become a ghoul, with his influence driving them to go feral faster. Again, we don't know. It's a mystery that probably won't be solved. And if you think this is just Bethesda doing a campy Lovecraft ripoff, you're absolutely right. But in their defense, Fallout 2 was already a giant pile of irradiated pop culture references. So honestly, I give them a pass. Nothing is a better homage to the OG Fallout games than baking random crap like this into the canon. But surely this is the only thing in Fallout that can't be explained by rational science, right? Pre-war ghouls. In Fallout, when we explore vaults, we usually find one of two things: centuries-old skeletons, or insane dwellers who want to kill us. In the case of Vault 108, we somehow get both, because the centuries-old skeletons are still alive, covered in flesh, and trying to murder us. See, when you enter Vault 108, you find Gary, and Gary, and Gary, and who could forget Gary? And you get the idea. The story goes that Vault-Tec scientists cloned one of the residents, the original Gary, but every clone turned out violently hostile toward anyone who wasn't Gary. So, like any good pre-war scientists, they kept trying again, and again, and again. Each clone got more aggressive until they finally stopped, after making about 50 of them. There's no record of what happened next, but judging by the vault now being full of murderous Garys, it's safe to assume they broke out, killed the other residents, and have been living there ever since. They're honestly one of the best surprises rises in Fallout 3. A gang of identical twins screaming, "Gary!" while beating you to death with lead pipes. Exactly the vibe I want in this game. But there's one small problem. How are they still alive? The cloning project happened over 200 years ago, and when using VATS, the highest number Gary we find is Gary 47. So, what happened? Well, dear viewers, I've got two theories. Theory 1, the boring one, but it makes sense. The Garys don't actually tell you their number. Your Pip-Boy does. Every Gary wears a Pip-Boy, so it's likely you're just reading the number listed on it. Maybe the original scientists pre-programmed each clone's Pip-Boy, since presumably they were meant to integrate into the vault, if not for the small kill everyone that's not Gary flaw they couldn't iron out. After the uprising, the clones could have kept using the cloning chamber manually. The vault was meant to have limited resources, so they might have only made a new Gary whenever one died. Whenever a Gary died, the next one could have taken his Pip-Boy, inheriting his number. So the Gary 1 we find isn't the original, it's just the Alpha Gary, the one the others agreed was in charge, and given the best weapons and the original's gear. Theory 2, the stupid one, but it fits. They're actually biologically immortal. So cloning, to vastly oversimplify, is taking some cells from something, putting them in a dish, and forcing them to replicate in a specific way until they grow into a copy of that original something. Well, what if that process just worked too well? Those cells kept dividing flawlessly, with none of the degradation that makes regular people age. So the Garys literally don't die of old age. Each one you fight is 200 years old and counting. Either way, I don't think this is a Bethesda oversight. Sure, writing consistency isn't exactly their strong suit, but this feels intentional. We're not meant to know the full truth. Vault 108 isn't about answers, it's meant to be a fun ride in the amusement park of Fallout 3. And sure, there's probably a deeper reason behind all of this, we just don't need to know it. Because sometimes you don't need a logical explanation. Sometimes all you need in life is a vault full of guys yelling, "Gary, trying to kill you." If Gary taught us anything, it's that people trying to kill you for no discernible reason is bad. You know what isn't bad? Killing people for a reason, and that reason being money. Talon Company. If you've ever played Fallout 3, you know that if you're too good or too evil, the game notices and sends mercenaries to kill you. If you have good karma, it's the Talon Company. If you have evil karma, it's the Regulators. Now, the Regulators kind of make sense. They're basically a big vigilante group that hunts down and puts bounties on undeniably evil people, which you can collect by bringing their fingers in because they have fingerprints or something. Don't think about it too hard. Granted, it's a little odd that their name was taken from the Fallout 1 faction, the Regulators of Adytum in the ruins of LA, who were secretly corrupt, brutal, and basically ran the town as a protection racket. But in Fallout 3, there's no such complexity. They are good guys who shoot bad guys. It's more of a nod towards the OG game, which was over a decade old by that point. The only real issue is, who's paying them? They hand out an endless stream of caps for every bounty you bring in. Are they collecting protection money from settlements they help, or is there some major funder behind the scenes? If so, who? I can't think of a single good karma character with that many caps to throw around. Then there's Talon Company, and they're only questions, no answers. They're basically the anti-regulators. The first time they ambush you, they call you a goody two-shoes and say they were explicitly hired to kill you because of your good deeds. After that, they attack on sight. Sure, their armor and weapons are great for repairing yours, but the real mystery remains. Who in the name of Adam is funding them? The Capital Wasteland doesn't have that many settlements, and very few have any serious caps to spare. How is it even economical to hire a mercenary company to hunt down random saints? Who's paying these guys to go around kicking puppies and shooting good Samaritans? There are a few possible answers, but none make perfect sense. The game never tells us outright, so all we can do is connect dots and follow vibes. Option 1, the Enclave. The logic's simple. The Enclave doesn't want competition. Keeping the Capital Wasteland divided and weak makes it easier for them to maintain control of the area. So maybe the Talon Company was paid to target do-gooders, whose efforts were stabilizing the region. But there's a major problem. Well, besides the complete lack of evidence. During Broken Steel, the Enclave actually attacks Talon Company strongholds. So maybe it was John Henry Eden funding them while Colonel Autumn opposed it. Or vice versa. Either way, we got literally nothing. Option 2, Little Horn. You bring him ears from good karma characters, and he pays you caps. He even has several secretaries who only talk about how busy they are, and are constantly typing away on typewriters, probably logging hits and contracts. This feels more like Bethesda trying to make evil gameplay more rewarding than some major lore addition. But the question stands, how does Little Horn afford all this? He's paying mercenaries, secretaries, and you. So where do the caps come from? Oh no, wait. We're covering a mystery inside a mystery. The singularity's breaking down. Quick move to the next slide before reality collapses in on itself. himself. Option 3. Mr. Burke. This one actually has some evidence. If you tick Burke off, he'll send the Talon Company after you. You can even find a note from him on one of their corpses, threatening them if they don't succeed. Given that Burke works for Tenpenny, one of the richest men in the wasteland, it's entirely possible he's a regular client. And honestly, paying a mercenary company to spice up the capital wasteland to keep it entertaining and watch the chaos from the safety of Tenpenny Tower sounds exactly like the kind of messed up thing Burke would do. And with that, we have reached the end of today's video. And so, dear viewer, what did we learn today? Absolutely nothing. Look, I don't know how to sugarcoat it. This video is literally about mysteries. I don't know what you were expecting. These mysteries stay unsolved, Bethesda stays silent, and we stay here overanalyzing a game that will be old enough to vote in next year's midterms instead of touching grass. That's all for now. So, go play your 12th Legion run in New Vegas, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.